It's hard to even describe how surreal it felt sitting there at that fancy steakhouse, wearing the only suit I owned. The same one I bought 6 years ago for my sister's wedding. The one that still had a small stain on the lapel from when my nephew spilled punch on me. It's all I could afford for my daughter's graduation dinner. That day, I sat in the same place I always had, quiet, invisible, just there for her. Lexi, now 24 and a fresh MBA graduate, looked every bit the part in her designer dress. I couldn't help but wonder just how much it cost. Her boyfriend, Tyler, a classic tech bro, looked like he had walked out of a magazine ad. His $300 haircut and shiny watch screamed privilege. He started talking about his startup, or whatever buzzword startup guys like him pitch, and my stomach sank. I'm used to feeling out of place, but tonight was different. Then there was Jenna, my ex-wife. She sat there with her new husband, Richard, a finance guy with the polished, smug look of someone who was always in control. A glance from her told me everything I needed to know. I'd been reduced to a shadow in the story of my own daughter's life. And that was before dinner even began. I couldn't help but think of all the years that led to this moment. The countless hours I worked in a factory after a divorce, taking any job that paid the bills or bills. I didn't even recognize my own life anymore. My house. A 2-bedroom rental from my buddy Tommy. The furniture? Second-hand. The kind you find at Goodwill. Not because I wanted it that way, but because that's all I could afford. Even my truck had 215,000 miles on it, making weird clicking noises every time I turned left. The mechanic said it'd cost $1,200 to fix, but that was money I didn't have. So, I just kept driving it. Jenna always used to mock me for the way I lived, the way I barely scraped by just to keep up with the life she and Lexi had. But where I was, at her graduation dinner, in the same suit, in the same awkward place. My brother Mike was there too. He's the only one who's stuck by me through all of this. Good guy, works as an electrician, and always calls things like he sees them. That's probably why Jenna hated him. Even now, years after the divorce, she couldn't hide her distaste for him. But Mike knew how uncomfortable I was. "You good, bro?" he asked as we sat down. I nodded. What else could I do? Leave? That would just feed into the narrative Jenna had been telling Lexi for years. But I was already beginning to feel like I didn't belong there anyway. Anthony came, the waiter. He handed me a menu without prices. I had to ask for one with prices, and when I saw them, my stomach dropped. The cheapest steak was $65. I mentally started calculating how many hours of overtime I would need to cover this dinner. At that moment, everything felt like a show. Lexi had just completed her MBA, and I hadn't seen her properly in years. I had tried to connect with her, tried to ask about her future plans. But of course, Jenna jumped in before Lexi could even answer. "Oh, she already has 3 offers from top firms," Jenna said with a look of pride. "We've been discussing which one makes the most sense strategically. I just wanted to know what she wanted." But Jenna wasn't having any of it. Lexi's answer? "I'm leaning toward Diote. Their corporate culture aligns with my values." Corporate culture. That's what me daughter, who once adored me, said. Corporate culture. I asked her a question, genuinely curious, about what values she meant. She looked a little taken aback, like no one had ever asked her that before. But before she could answer, the waiter returned with champagne. They poured it into delicate glasses I was terrified to hold, my hands too rough from years of factory work. Meanwhile, Richard was checking his phone, probably making a deal I wouldn't even understand. Jenna kept asking about my hobbies, knowing damn well I hadn't had time for anything since the divorce. I used to do woodworking before, but now it was all about work, just work. When my daughter asked if I'd be at her graduation dinner, I didn't think it would be like this. I didn't think it would feel like I was the last person anyone cared about. Then Lexi stood up. She held her glass high. I knew this speech was coming, but I wasn't prepared for it. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate this achievement," she began, her voice so polished. "These last 2 years have been challenging but incredible. I couldn't have done it without Mom and Richard's constant support. Not a single mention of me. Not even a thanks for coming, Dad. Nothing." And that's when she said it. "Dad, well, you showed up tonight. I guess that counts for something." My stomach churned, but I kept quiet. Then came the real punch. "You weren't there when I needed braces, or help with college applications. You didn't help me move into my dorm, or when I had me appendix out. You missed every important milestone. So you don't get to show up now, and pretend you contributed anything to my success." The words were like daggers. Every moment I had sacrificed, every hour I had worked, every penny I had earned, it meant nothing. Lexi didn't see it. She only saw what her mother had told her. The narrative that he had been absent, that I was the deadbeat. And it was in that moment, hearing her say that that something inside me snapped. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just laughed. A short, dry laugh. It froze everyone in their seats. "Congratulations," I said, standing up. I pulled out my wallet and dropped 5 $100 bills on the table. "That should cover my part of the dinner." I paused for a moment, letting the weight of me words sink in. "And it's the last money you'll ever get from me." Lexi looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "Ask your mother," I said, locking eyes with Jenna. Suddenly, her face went pale. "Ask her where your tuition money really came from. Ask her who paid your rent last month. Ask her who bought your car." Mike stood up beside me, putting a hand on my shoulder. "Been a long time coming." "Bro," he said quietly. "I'm done," I said, looking at Lexi one last time. "Congrats on the MBA, hope it was worth it." Richard half stood, like he was going to say something, but sat back down when I glared at him. Tyler stared at his steak like it was the most interesting thing in the world. And just like that, I walked out of that restaurant. My brother followed closely behind. "Are you okay?" Mike asked as we made it to the parking lot. "No," I told him. "But I'm about to be." The world was changing. And for the first time in 20 years, I wasn't bending over backward for anyone. I had finally found my spine. And nothing was going to stop me now. The night after the dinner, I could barely sleep. My mind kept replaying everything Lexi had said to me. The way she stood there, cold and detached, as she basically declared that I'd been a non-factor in her life. The realization that she had no idea, no clue at all about the sacrifices I had made for her. Every ounce of effort, every dollar I poured into her future, had been turned into a punchline in her mind. It was almost like I never existed, but it wasn't just Lexi. It was the way Jenna had orchestrated it all, making sure that my role in her life was erased. I was just a ghost in their version of our story. I could feel the anger building up inside me again. But this time, it wasn't just anger, it was something else. A sense of release. Like I had finally stopped carrying the weight of years of guilt, manipulation, and neglect. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just walk away from all this without making them see the truth. Jenna and Richard, especially, they needed to understand what they'd done. But most of all, Lexi needed to see the truth, even if it meant she hated me for it. The next morning, I got up early. My hands were shaking, but I felt more resolute than I had in years. I started by logging into my bank account. I wanted to get a clear picture of how much I had been funding for Lexi, how much of her life I had been paying for all this time. First thing I saw, $2,800 for her rent, $450 for her car payment, $350 for her phone bill. All things she thought came from her mom and Richard. Then there was the $750 credit card payment I'd been making on her behalf, the one that always had charges from places like Sephora and SoulCycle. Every month, I'd send the money, no questions asked. No thanks. Just a quiet transaction, like clockwork. And then there was the tuition. $22, $500 every semester, automatically deducted from my special account I set up for her grad school payments. It was all coming from me, every penny. She had no idea. I paused, staring at the screen, my finger hovering over the button to cancel all those payments. Part of me still wondered if I was making a mistake. Should I just let it go? Maybe keep paying? But then I thought about what she said last night. You don't get to show up now and pretend you contributed anything to my success. That was the final straw. I clicked cancel on every single payment, every single recurring transaction that had kept her afloat. All of it. Gone. Then I logged into the special account I had for her tuition, the one that automatically paid for her school. The next $22, $500 payment was due in 3 days. I transferred every single penny out of that account and into my personal account. All $67,500. For a moment, I sat there staring at the screen. Was I really doing this? Was I ready to make this break? But then I thought of everything I had sacrificed, everything I had given, and everything she had taken for granted. I pressed the button. And then I took one more step. I called my life insurance company. I had a $500,000 policy that had Lexi as the sole beneficiary. For years, I'd paid $275 a month for that policy. But now, I couldn't stand the thought of her being the one to benefit from it after everything. So, I changed it. I made my brother Mike's kids the beneficiaries instead. The weight of it all was starting to lift. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. I wasn't just some guy being manipulated and walked all over. I wasn't the doormat anymore. I was doing something for me, and that felt like freedom. I knew I had to go further though. I had to expose the truth. So, I called Steve. He was a guy I knew from my side gigs. He worked part-time as a cybersecurity consultant, and a while back, he offered to help me with something that was always on my mind. The truth. Remember that thing you offered to help me with? I asked him over the phone. I'm ready. You sure, man? He asked, a bit surprised. No going back once we do this. I'm sure, I said. It's time. Steve came over with his laptop. Within an hour, he had access to all the emails between Jenna and Lexi over the years. It turned out that Jenna had been using the same password for years since 2010. I couldn't believe it was that easy. What I found in those emails made my blood boil. Jenna had been taking credit for every single payment I made for Lexi. Every tuition check, every car payment, every rent check, it was all me. But she had convinced Lexi that it was her and Richard. And in the emails, I found confirmation of what I had always suspected. Jenna had been poisoning Lexi against me for years. She had gone so far as to tell her things like, "Don't worry, honey. Richard and I have it covered. Your father's too busy with his own life to worry about your education." I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was one thing to be lied to, but this was something else entirely. I started printing everything, every email, every bank statement, every transfer. The proof was all right there. You organized it all in a folder, labeled it the truth. I even drafted a simple letter to Lexi. For 20 years, I have supported you silently, while your mother poisoned you against me. Every tuition payment, every rent check, every car payment, that was me. Not scholarships, not your mother, not Richard. Me. Working 70-hour weeks, destroying my health, sacrificing everything. I'm done being your ATM. I'm done being the villain in a story that your mother wrote. Starting today, you're on your own. Earn your own way. Pay your own bills. Be an adult. All payments have been canceled. All accounts closed. This is what you wanted, a life without your father in it. Congratulations. P.S. Attached is proof of everything I've paid for, and every lie your mother told you. Believe it or not, I no longer care. I sealed it in an envelope, along with about 50 pages of proof, and I dropped it in the mail. It was done. There was no going back now. I shut off my phone, turned off the noise, and for the first time in a long time, I took a day off. My brother Mike came over, and the two of us went fishing. Steve came too, and we spent the entire day out on the lake, not talking much, just casting our lines. Mike brought sandwiches and soda. Steve brought his portable radio. We didn't talk about Lexi, or Jenna, or money, or anything really. For once, I just existed. Around noon, Mike broke the silence. "You know they're going to freak out, right?" "Counting on it," I replied with a grin. "You think Lexi will understand? Or will she just hate me more?" I shrugged. Either way, I'm done being a doormat. It felt like a weight had been lifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about Lexi hating me. I wasn't concerned with how Jenna would react. I wasn't going to be controlled anymore. That night, I went to bed and slept better than I had in years. The guilt I'd carried for so long had vanished. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. Not long at all. I woke up the next morning feeling like a Newman, though I knew things were about to get ugly. The phone was already vibrating on the kitchen counter, buzzing incessantly. I ignored it at first. The truth was out now, and I wasn't going to run from it. I felt like I had done the right thing, no matter how much it would hurt in the short term. This was my life, my choice, and I had to live with it. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I reached for my phone, and as soon as I unlocked it, I saw the flood of missed calls, texts, voicemails, and emails. 143 missed calls, 97 text messages, 28 voicemails, and a random Instagram DM from Tyler asking what the hell was going on. I scrolled through the notifications, barely believing what I was seeing. The first voicemail was from Lexi. She sounded confused, her voice shaky. "Dad, there's some mistake with my rent. The building manager says the payment was stopped. Call me back." The second voicemail was more panicked. "Dad, please, I can't reach you. My car payment is overdue now too. What's happening?" The 10th voicemail was from her, crying now. "Please, Dad, I don't understand. What's going on? Mom's freaking out. My tuition payment didn't go through. They're threatening to drop me from the program." I couldn't listen to them all in one go. I just hit pause and sat back. What had I done? I knew what I'd done. I wasn't going back, but hearing her break down like that, it shook me. The 20th voicemail was from Jenna. Her tone was venomous. "Mark, you vindictive son of a bitch, how dare you do this to your daughter? After everything we've done for you, you owe her. Call me back immediately." I heard her words, but I didn't react. There was no going back now. The voicemails kept coming. Richard left 3 in total, the last one practically pleading with me. "Mark, please, let's talk about this. Like reasonable men. I'm sure we can work something out." I listened to the messages in silence, just letting the words hit me. But my resolve never wavered. I wasn't giving in. I had my reasons, and now they had to face the consequences of their actions. All these years of lies, manipulation, and emotional control had built to this point. They were going to have to deal with it. Then came the package. I could hear the knock on the door before the bell rang. I knew exactly who it was before I even opened the door. Jenna. She looked different. Like someone who had aged 10 years in the span of one night. Her designer purse, all polished and pristine, didn't seem to fit in the worn-down reality of my porch. "Mark," she said as soon as I opened the door, her voice tight with frustration. "You need to fix this." "Fix what?" I asked, my tone calm and steady. Her eyes narrowed, and I could see the anger rising. "Don't play dumb. Lexi's tuition. Her apartment. All of it. You're her father." "Am I?" I asked, not breaking eye contact. "That's not what she said last night. That's not what you've been telling her for 20 years. Jenna's face turned cold, and I could see her trying to spin things. "So this is revenge then? You're punishing our daughter because your feelings got hurt?" "No," I replied flatly. "Not revenge. Just consequences for both of you." Jenna's face softened, but only briefly. She tried to pull out all the stops. "Mark, please. You don't understand. Lexi only has 3 months left in her program. Her rent is due. Her car is going to get repossessed. We can't keep up with it all." "And whose fault is that?" I asked. "You've been living beyond your means for years. Using my money, and pretending you were the hero in Lexi's life." She blinked, and I saw the walls crack. This wasn't the manipulative woman I had known for so long. She was vulnerable now, and it felt different. But I wasn't buying it. She started to cry real tears this time, not the manipulative crocodile tears I'd grown so used to seeing. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Please, Mark. We can't do it without you. Lexi needs you. She's so close to finishing, and if she doesn't finish, she'll be devastated." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice as cold as hers had been for the past 20 years. "But I'm done." Jenna stepped back, defeated, and for the first time, it didn't feel guilty about it. She had made me feel small, invisible, worthless for so long, and now she was looking for the one person she knew could fix it. But I wasn't fixing anything for her anymore. Just as I was about to close the door, I heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel. I looked out to see Lexi's car pull into my driveway. She was driving it like she was in a race, parking crooked in a rush. She rushed up the steps to the porch, the envelope I had sent her in hand. "Is this true?" she demanded, her voice shaking. She looked at me, her face pale, mascara smeared down her face from the tears. "Is it true?" I nodded. "Every penny. Every single one. I paid for everything. Not your mother. Not Richard. Me. All of it." Lexi's eyes flickered from me to Jenna, who was standing at the bottom of the porch steps, her face flushed with guilt and fear. "Mom?" Lexi asked quietly. "Is this true? Dad paid for my tuition? My MBA?" Jenna could only nod slightly. He insisted on it. He wanted it kept quiet. I didn't look at Jenna when I said, "I have emails. The ones where she explicitly takes credit for everything I've paid for. The ones where she calls me selfish, unreliable. The ones where she makes sure you never know the truth." Lexi turned back to look at her mother, her face twisted with confusion and pain. She stumbled back, and for the first time in all these years, I saw the truth dawning on her face. Her shoulders sagged, and then, in a moment that will stay with me forever, she crumpled. She sank down onto my porch steps, her sobs echoing through the quiet of the early afternoon. "I didn't know," she kept repeating, over and over again. "I swear, I didn't know. I didn't move. I didn't rush to comfort her. Because the truth was, I couldn't fix this. I couldn't just sweep it all away with a hug and a few comforting words. Lexi had to face the reality, and that reality was harsh. But it was the truth. The only truth. "So now you know," I said, my voice soft but firm. "What are you going to do about it?" Her face crumpled further, her hands clutching her chest like she was struggling to breathe. "Dad, please, I need your help. I can't lose everything. Not now. Not when I'm this close." I swallowed hard, my throat tightening as I looked at my daughter. The woman I had sacrificed so much for. The woman who, for years, had only seen me as a deadbeat. I could see the heartbreak in Lexi's eyes. But I also knew something deeper was there now. Something that hadn't been there before. She wasn't looking at me like I was the villain in her story anymore. The truth had shattered the world she had built around the lies. I could feel it in the air, that strange and heavy silence that follows when everything's out in the open. She didn't speak for a while. She just sat there, the sobs coming in ragged breaths, her mascara black streaked down her face. I stayed silent too, giving her space. I didn't feel the urge to console her, or to apologize. I had spent so long apologizing to myself and others for the things I had done, mostly for things I hadn't done. But I had learned something over the last few days. I wasn't the one who needed to apologize anymore. Dad, she whispered through her tears. How could you let me think you didn't care? All this time, I thought you were just a distant memory, you know. Like you didn't care. Like you chose everything else over me. I let her words land, feeling the weight of them settle in. I didn't have a choice, Lex. I was trying to make a life for us after your mom took everything. You know, I didn't get to see you much after the divorce. And when I did, it was like trying to break through a wall. No matter how much I worked, no matter what I sacrificed, it was never enough. It was always someone else getting the credit, someone else taking the glory. I was just the guy who sent the checks. She looked up at me, eyes wide with a new kind of understanding. So you did it all? For me? Every damn thing, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I worked nights and weekends. Took on any job I could. Hell, I even pawned my dad's watch to pay for your private school tuition. All of it, for you. I didn't want you to see it because I didn't want you to feel like you owed me. But I also didn't expect to be erased from your life when it was all said and done. There was a long pause, and I could feel her processing it. Lexi wiped her eyes and stood up, slowly. I don't know what to say, Dad. I don't know what to do with all this. I didn't know. I had no idea. You don't need to say anything, I replied, my tone steady. What's important now is that you know. And maybe, one day, you'll understand what I did. What I gave up. What I gave you. But that's on you now, not me. Lexi stared at me, torn between wanting to reach out and hug me and wanting to retreat to the life she thought she had with her mother. Finally, she took a deep breath, and her voice shook, but she spoke firmly. I'm not asking you to fix everything. But please, Dad, don't just walk away. It was a simple request, and for a split second, I almost gave in. I could feel that old urge to take care of her, to smooth things over, to make everything okay again. But I couldn't, not anymore. You're going to have to fix this yourself, Lexi, I said. You've had me as your safety net for far too long. And now, you're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet. It's not about me fixing your life anymore. It's about you taking responsibility for your own choices and actions. Her face faltered, but I could see the steel starting to form in her eyes. It wasn't the reaction I was expecting, but it was the one I needed. The one she needed. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know how. You've been doing it all along, I replied, my voice softer now. You just didn't know it. You've been living a life funded by my sacrifices. Thinkinjit was handed to you. But you can handle this. You're not a little girl anymore. It's time you start acting like an adult. Lexi stood there, looking at me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was no longer invisible to her. She wasn't blaming me. She wasn't cursing me out. She wasn't running away. She was facing the truth, just like I had to face it myself all those years ago. Okay, she finally said, her voice small but strong. Okay, I'll try. I'll try to make things right. I nodded. That's all you can do. Try. I watched her walk down the steps and get into her car. She didn't look back, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to chase her, to make everything better. I had given her the tools she needed to take charge of her own life, and if she decided to use them, that was on her. The door closed behind me with a finality that echoed through the house. I stood there for a moment, just breathing in the stillness. For the first time in years, I wasn't holding on to something that wasn't mine to hold. I wasn't sacrificing my own life for the sake of someone else's narrative. I was free. The next few days were quiet. The storm I had caused didn't let up. Jenna called me more times than I could count, each time angrier than the last. She demanded I reverse the decisions I had made, that I reinstate the payments. She threatened me with legal action, with trying to paint me as the villain in front of Lexi again. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to back down, and I wasn't going to get pulled back into her world of manipulation. One morning, I was at work, when Mike called me. You good, bro? He asked. I could hear the concern in his voice, but there was something else there too. A little pride. A little recognition that I had finally done something for myself. I'm good, I said. Better than I've been in 20 years. Mike paused. You think you did the right thing? I do, I replied. I had to do something. And now, I'm not the guy who's been a doormat for everyone else. I'm the guy who finally stood up for himself. There was a long silence, then Mike let out a breath. You're a badass, man, I chuckled. Not really. But I'm finally starting to feel like one. The weeks that followed were strange. There was still tension between Lexi and me. She would send texts now and then, asking how I was doing. Occasionally, she'd ask if I could help with something. but I knew this was her way of testing the waters. I wasn't going to cave in, not again. And slowly, but surely, I started rebuilding my life. For the first time, I focused on me. I took care of the things I had put off for years, like my health, my house, my truck. I went to the doctor for the first time in years. I took time for myself, and I allowed myself to breathe, to live. One day, I received a text from Lexi. It wasn't much, just a short message. Dad, I think I understand now. I'm sorry for everything. I'll never forget what you did for me. I stared at it for a long time, then replied, you don't have to apologize. Just make sure you don't forget who you are and what you can do. And that was it. The beginning of something new. I still don't know where things will go with Lexi. I don't know if she'll ever fully get it, if we'll ever have the kind of relationship I dreamed of having with her. But I do know one thing, I'm no longer invisible. I'm no longer a doormat. I'm finally standing on my own 2 feet, and I'm not looking back. For the first time in years, I'm living life on my own terms. And that's all I can do now.